What is going on, guys? Jason Burke here, Styles Clash for Life, coming at you on YouTube, and today I've got some football focus. The Pittsburgh Steelers played the Seattle Seahawks yesterday in Week 2 of the 2019 NFL season, and the bad news keeps on coming for the Steeler fans. If you've watched my channel long enough, you know that I'm a diehard Steeler fan, and if you're watching this, you probably are too. There's not a lot to be excited about right now with this season, folks. Pittsburgh loses this game 28-26 and drops to 0-2 on the season. We are playing a very tough 2-0 49er team next week, and we're doing it without our fearless leader. Ben Roethlisberger is officially out for the season with an elbow injury. He needs surgery. So the young and talented Mason Rudolph will step in, and we'll see what we've got for the future. This season could wind up being a fun little ascent journey to see if Rudolph can take us a place this season, or it could just be the end of our season. We will see how this goes. I don't want to overstate anything. It's only Week 2. We're only 0-2. There are many games left to play, but this game was a tale of two halves. In the first half, the offense couldn't do anything at all, and the defense played very, very well. They got a ton of pressure. They got sacks. They played solid coverage. They were physical. The defense looked great in the first half. The offense did not look good at all. In the second half, the offense came alive and started looking pretty good, and the defense couldn't stop the Seahawks to save their lives. So, two halves of much better play than last week, much more competitive. Many more guys stepped up, but still lots and lots of holes in this team, and I will get to those very quickly. Let me give you guys the stats first. Big Ben, he only played until about 2 minutes left in the first half. He went in the tunnel at the end of the first half, did not return with the elbow injury. Again, he needs surgery. He's out for the season. 8 of 15, 75 yards. Not very impressive. Part of this is Ben just not looking sharp and playing injured, but also we'll get to these wide receivers in a minute because I got a lot to say about these wide receivers. Mason Rudolph came in, looked pretty good. 12 of 19, 112 yards, 2 touchdowns. Did have one interception that was not his fault. It was a very well-thrown ball to Donte Moncrief, who dropped it, which resulted in an interception. We'll get to him in a second as well. So Mason looked pretty good in there. James Conner, ineffective. 11 carries, 33 yards, and a touchdown. Juju Smith-Schuster, 5 catches, 84 yards. Vance McDonald bounced back this week a little bit with 2 touchdowns on offense. Let me go ahead and get to this offense. First things first, Pittsburgh shot themselves in the foot in this game. I don't like the Steelers beat the Steelers mentality. That's a lot of things that fans say. Like, we beat ourselves, we beat our own team this week. No, the opponent beat you. People use that as a nice way to salve their wounded feelings when their team loses. But in this case, Pittsburgh did beat Pittsburgh in a lot of ways in this game. There are 3 major plays I could point to that really shot ourselves in the foot. Number 1, in the first half, Pittsburgh held Seattle to a field goal, and then Dan McCullers lined up over the center and jumped over the center, which you cannot do on a field goal, which resulted in taking the field goal off the board, extending Seattle's drive, which resulted in the next play touchdown. So, exchanging 3 points for 7 on a bonehead play by McCullers, that is a 4-point swing right there. That's very important, especially when you lose a game by 2 points. A 4-point swing is a big deal. Then we had the pass interference call in the second half. Terrell Edmonds defended a ball. The call on the field was good. No pass interference. Seattle challenged. The call on Edmonds was reversed to a pass interference, which resulted in a 34-yard gain for Seattle. And then they extended the drive and went on to score a touchdown. So again, that's a big 7-point swing for us as well. And then what was the other play? The interception. Mason Rudolph threw a good ball on an out route, I think it was a comeback route, to Donte Moncrief, who dropped 4 balls last week on 8 targets. He came out. This was the first target of the game for Moncrief. Ball was right in his hands. He let it go through his hands, tipped it up in the air, which resulted in a Seattle interception. They went on to score a touchdown, and they scored touchdowns on 4 subsequent drives. The defense couldn't stop them for the rest of the game. So that is a big, big swing because it was about to be a 3rd down conversion, which resulted in a turnover, and from there the defense couldn't keep up. So anytime you're talking about 3 touchdown plays in a game that was decided by 2 points, 28-26, that obviously is the big swing. So Pittsburgh has to get better when it comes to penalties and holding the ball for turnovers. those are big deals. We shot ourselves in the foot a lot of times in this game. Those penalties were huge. Getting to the offense, again, first half, you see it a lot. The offensive line blocks well for Ben. The offensive line gives Ben a lot of time. Ben can still move around in the pocket, extends the play better than almost any quarterback in the NFL. Our receivers cannot get open for anything. We may have the worst receiving core in the NFL, and I'll tell you why. I didn't want to say this, especially early in the season. We know what happened last season, getting rid of Antonio Brown. We saw what he did in Pittsburgh. We saw what he did in Oakland. It was the right decision for the franchise. Antonio Brown is a loose cannon. Let me say this. Antonio Brown, his presence on the field and what he does for the Steelers receiving core, we miss him tremendously as a player for what he did on the field. Losing Brown on the field was a massive mistake for us as far as his on-the-field contribution. You saw how well guys like Switzer and Juju and Vance got open last year with Antonio. They can't get open for anything this year. And I'm talking Juju on down. I was touting this receiving core all offseason, saying the veteran Moncrief was going to break out this year with Ben, saying James Washington was going to break out this year. He's been doing great in camp. He looked great in preseason. Switzer being a scat back that can do a lot of things. Deontay Johnson being the young upstart quick receiver. I was so excited for these guys this year, and Ben's holding the ball for 9 seconds for a reason. It is not Ben losing his arm strength. It is not Ben making bad decisions all of a sudden. It is these receivers being unable to get open despite having time. We are 9-10 seconds into a play, and none of these guys can get open. I mean, Juju wound up today, like I said, 5 for 84, and Vance McDonald bounced back with 2 TDs. He was a much bigger factor this week after I called him out last week. Still, I think only had 50 yards or whatever, but did wind up with 2 touchdowns, played a lot better this week than last week. But these 2 guys aside, and even Juju, who's not getting open that well on a lot of plays, what are these guys doing? Deontay Johnson had 1 really nice catch. Other than that, nothing. James Washington, I think, had 1 really nice catch and 1 okay catch. Nothing aside from that. Switzer, I think, had like 1 catch for 2 yards. He's not getting downfield at all. He's doing nothing. James Conner, not only is he not running the ball very effectively and showing that he's no Le'Veon Bell so far this season, just 3 yards a carry in this game, but is not doing much in the receiving game either. There's just no options out there for us wide receivers. No one is getting separation, and that means Ben has to hold on to the ball and either take sacks or force plays. Mason did breathe some life into the offense, but again, there were so many plays out there where our quarterbacks are looking scared because the receivers have no separation. There's no options out there. We're running 5 and 6 receiver sets with Johnny Holton and Xavier Grimble. We're bringing bench guys in, and nobody's getting anywhere. We're spreading the field, and we're still seeing no separation to the point where Ben and Mason in this game had to dump off to Connor a couple times, dump off to Mason a lot, dumped off to Moncrief for the drop, dumped off to Xavier Grimble for a drop in this game. Our guys are looking not very shorthanded, not very quick, and just not running good routes in spite of the fact that we look good all camp and all preseason. Now that we're playing good defenses in the regular season, we are not looking good. Defensively, let's get to defense. Biggest shining thing in this game, sacks. We got pressure on the quarterback. Our front 7 after last week's bad game brought it this week. Stephon Tuitt, big game, 2.5 sacks. Was involved in 3 sacks in this game. Nice pressure for Tuitt. Looked really good. Mark Barron got a half sack along with Tuitt. He looked pretty good in this game. TJ Watt got a big sack in this game. He looked good. Mike Hilton came in on a blitz and got several tackles in the backfield on running backs. He looked good in this game. He got a forced fumble by shooting in off the edge, which Devin Bush recovered and ran back for nearly a touchdown. Got into like the 5-yard line. So those guys look good in this game. Bush had a much improved game from last week. Much improved all around the board. Steven Nelson, I want to give credit to. His coverage on the outside on DK Metcalf was excellent. He was physical. He was bumping around. He looked really good out there. I liked what I saw from him. Joe Hayden's name was not called in this game, which means he played pretty well on the other side against Lockett. Both Lockett and Metcalf finished with over 60 yards receiving, but didn't have outstanding games. They played solid, but they weren't huge factors like they were expected to be, especially Metcalf. Terrell Edmonds, He had 8 tackles in this game. He does still look lost out there in some coverage plays. He's getting beat in the middle of the field by tight ends. Seattle's biggest threat in this game were the tight ends, Vanette and who's the other one? Nick Vanette and the other. I can't think of the other tight end's name right now. Middle of the field was wide open several times for those two guys, as well as the slot receivers. So he is looking lost, but his coverage in this game downfield for the deep shots was better. The pass interference call I don't think was a pass interference, and he knocked down several balls in the middle. So his coverage in terms of contesting balls is definitely improving. His physicality has always been there. His hitting has always been there. But he's still missing coverages. He's still getting to plays late. He's still allowing 10-yard blasts in the middle of the field where slot guys and tight ends are getting wide open. So that's got to improve. Disley is the other tight end. Will Disley, I think, had a touchdown in this game. So we've got to improve our slot and tight end coverage still, and our tackling is really bad. As much as we got good pressure and played physical on the outsides, our inside coverage and our tackling is bad. Anthony Chickalo missed a tackle that resulted in, I think it was a Chris Carson long touchdown. This defense in the first half only allowed 7 points. It should have been 3. Seattle got a field goal, like I said, that was taken off the board for a touchdown. So defense played very well in the first half. Second half, they allowed, I think, 4 scoring drives for touchdowns. Maybe it was 3. It was 3 because the final score was 28-26. So after the interception from Moncrief, who, by the way, had 1 target for a drop that caused an interception after 4 drops last week, this guy has like 1 more game before he's cut by this team. Whew. Horrible for Moncrief. But after the interception, Seattle goes down the field 3 consecutive times and gets touchdowns. Pittsburgh cannot stop them. And in spite of the fact that Rudolph is leading scoring drives, we are within 1 score the entire second half, and we can't get it because our defense can't get a stop, including the last drive of the game. All we had to do was get a stop on 3rd down twice. Once from Russell Wilson's long run and once from, I think, Chris Carson, and we could not get the stops we needed. Our defense sold us out big time in the second half. The pressure and the coverage both slowed down. So as much as I'm happy with the coverage and the sacks in the first half, the second half was trash. So, what do you guys think of this team? Where do you think we're going? Excuse me, we're 0-2 now, and we're heading into a very good San Francisco 2-0 team whose offense is booming right now. They have Matt Breida, who's a hard guy to tackle, which is a problem for us in this game. They draw penalties, which is a problem for us in this game. They have a great tight end in George Kittle, which is a problem for us in this game. So let's see what we can do against a team that seems to have strengths where our weaknesses are. What do you guys think about our biggest weaknesses? What do you think Mason Rudolph is going to do as the starting quarterback for the rest of the season? Is our season over? Are we just tanking now, or are we going to come back and surprise some teams with our weapons? What do our wide receivers and our coverage guys need to do to get better? Tell me these things in the comments below, and I will see you guys next week.